Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Vera Brosgol's book, Anya's Ghost from First Second. This was given to me by a student. I've got a group of three really talented students that I'm doing, I don't know, like an internship kind of thing with. I'm basically just collaborating with them on some ideas I have. uh, I'm working kind of as the writer and layout artist and just overseer director of the whole thing. And we got some really cool book ideas going. But part of getting to really know each other in a creative sense, we're passing books back and forth. And so this one came from my student Bailey Browning, who we're working on a book that is going to be called The Event, and I'll say more about that probably in a couple of years when we're further into it. But Bailey gave me this and said this is one of her favorite comics, and we're just trading comics back and forth because we all like comics. So excited to read it and really happy to share it. I quite enjoyed the book. This is Anya here. She's our main character. This is her mother and her younger brother. They're a family who has immigrated from Russia, and Anya has really gone out of her way to integrate herself. She got picked on a lot as a kid for having an accent and being different. So she's really worried about her weight, her appearance. She's worked really hard to get rid of her accent, all of these things. Early on in the book, Anya falls down a well and gets trapped in there with this skeleton and the ghost of this skeleton, and they freaks out, but then they start to get to know each other. Anya gets saved pretty quickly out of the well, and then the ghost comes with her. Basically, the ghost, one of the finger bones of the ghost, gets into Anya's backpack, and that allows the ghost to come with her because it has to stay within a certain distance of its bones. So you get the ghost here, who's Emily Riley, is now hanging out with Anya at school, which at first seems like a terrible thing, but then you go through like, oh, they can help me cheat and all that stuff. So that's a lot of the story going forward, is just trying to hide the ghost and getting to know the ghost, becoming friends. This is an older book, so spoiler alert, I'm going to go through and actually like spoil all the little twists and turns in the book because I think it's an interesting story and I want to talk about it. It's old, so I'm not ruining anything. I think this came out in 2011 is what it said. Well, I don't see it there real quick. There's some, not a lot, but some simple, like just fun design formalisms throughout, like having this more how-to page here while they're going to gym and they're explaining this just awful like sprinting thing they have to do where it's just an interval running until everyone collapses. And yeah, it seems pretty mean, but I like the page design on that. This is, mostly a YA book. I would say it's not like super for kids. It's definitely like teens. Another one of the main characters is Sean. Sean's dating the, like perfect cheerleader, gets great grades, everyone loves her. Had to giggle a little bit that this kind of looks like our Sean. Living the line, Sean has made it with his long, tall body. This guy's a basketball player, and his sexy, shaggy hair. He's in here being a charming man. So get it, Sean. You've manifested in this book. Obviously, Anya has a crush on the Sean character, but he's seen as being the boyfriend of this girl, and we find out even worse things about him later that makes him less appealing. About halfway through the book, you find out from Emily that she was murdered, and she's talking about this thing where her family was murdered, and she stumbled across it, and this guy chased her, and she fell down into the well and died in the well. Again, it's just a really nice page of design, different type of layout than the grid. I like that the artist has chosen these moments, really sparingly. It would have been cool to see some more of these like spectacular comics image making throughout the book, but also it would have distracted from the story. So this is an artist that obviously can do more, but is staying very constrained for the sense of the story, and I think that's admirable. Some really kind of fun writing in here that made me laugh out loud when I was reading it. I chuckled like right here. The mother is trying to get Anya to go to church, and she's trying to get out of it. And she said, "Oh wait, I just got my period just now." And then the mom's like, "Ah, damn it," walking away. And she's like, "You can check me if you don't believe." And just that little like bit of writing, that seemed like that's probably happened. That's something someone's heard that their friend did or something. I don't know. That just feels very particular, and I like that quite a bit. You start getting some like interesting worldview interactions between the characters as you go as well, because Emily's from like 90 years prior, I believe, in the story, is the ghost that's been dead for 90 years. As Anya's explaining what it feels like to be the outsider, to be like the Russian. There's another kid in the school, Dima, who we're going to meet in on the next page turn probably, who's Russian, and she doesn't want to deal with him because she's worked so hard to get rid of her like ethnic signs that people can pick up on. She doesn't want to be seen with someone who still has an accent, who's still very Russian, and like it was wanting to assimilate basically. And then Emily says, "When I was alive, all the Irish people may as well have been bloodkin. They defended each other, only married each other." And so it's interesting because now we would probably view that as a very like negative worldview, where people are like too limited to their ethnic group. They're going to keep any other ethnic group out. They don't want any intermingling, like that's going to be perceived as biased and negative, racist, whatever. But then you have the counter side of that, where Anya's giving up all of her cultural history and just trying so hard to assimilate. And like that's just like two or three worldviews kind of all getting jumbled up in an interesting way there, without saying which one's appropriate, without making any judgment on it. I think that's a very like healthy way of writing about these topics, that you can show that this character, that's something we would think is bad now, but you look at it from their viewpoint, really truly in their viewpoint, and they see the good of it. Like, man, we really looked out for each other. So I think that's good, intelligent writing. As the book goes on, we start to see that Emily, you can see here, is actually like, she's getting a little obsessive with Anya. She's smoking now. You could see just in the way her eyes represented, she's much more menacing and all of that. So then she becomes something to fight against, and we got to find out more information about her to find out exactly what's going on. I won't totally spoil the end of the book with all the ins and out of how the final conflict between Anya and Emily goes. You could seek out a copy of the book and find that out for yourself, because it is a very enjoyable book. But here's this character, Dima, and this is another one of those kind of interesting intersections of just culture and times and generations and all of these things. You have Anya wanting to do some research on Emily, go back and find records about her and her family's death, and try and figure out what happened to them, how Emily got murdered. And the records don't exist in a searchable way, so she's like, she has to give up. And she's been avoiding this Dima character the whole time. She doesn't want to be associated with him. He's a dork. He still sounds too Russian. And he runs into her at the library and is able to talk to her about what's going on and why she's frustrated. And he explains to her that the record she's looking for would be on microfiche, and she has no idea what that is, as I'm assuming the majority of my students wouldn't know what it is or how to use it. But he knows how to use it because he's recently over from Russia, and in Russia they're still technologically behind. They're still using this as part of their curriculum for research and their classes and stuff. And so he totally knows how to use this thing. And again, it's showing that this idea of like progress in terms of like we're always better than we were before just isn't right. That progress is like this expansional thing, and sometimes in the expansion there's things that get left back here in the core that are still useful, and like you should still access them and know how to use them. Knowledge, worldviews, having the idea of taking care of yours, just skewing that to not have the negative aspect, still knowing that how to use this technology is actually more high tech than using a phone. There's more mechanical knowledge you have to use. You actually know a little bit more about the machine, whereas on the phone, if it's broken, you got to take it in. You can't even get in to fix it. So just kind of contrasting these different worldviews throughout the book, again, with no judgment, is really nice, showing kind of the benefits of both sides instead of always going on about the negatives of the other people's worldviews. Finding the positives in them, I think, is a really great thing. So really found this to be a very well written book, a really fun story. Great art throughout, very, very good cartooning. Like I said, it's mostly functional. It tells the story. It never gets very bombastic in many places. But when it does, there's really like these moments where you get these big design pages that kind of stand out. So I think, just like pure great comic storytelling, really interesting writing, great message all the way throughout, and just a fun book. So thanks, Bailey. I will bring this back to you, and I will look forward to continue trading books. And everyone else, I hope you can get yourself a copy of this. It's fun. Sala Nyalo, Path of the Shades by Clarence Doss is a really cool ongoing project that Living the Line will be producing. Clarence is a PhD student from Fiji who's studying the myths of Fiji for his doctoral thesis. And part of that study project is that he's producing these comics. They're kind of like Hellboy, where there's these little short stories that capture all of these different mythologies. But then he's using that to wrap the project into his doctoral thesis and then provide educational material where people can come to these comics. They don't have to read his PhD thesis. They can come to the comics and get a more consumable version of the mythology of Fiji.